Hi everyone, this is Erin from Sandpaper Road, and this is part 3 of the 6-part tutorial for the mini album using the Age of Technology paper collection by Craft a Clock. So I'm working on the next page of the album. This is actually page 2 of the album, and if you missed the other parts of the tutorial, I'll definitely link down below in the description box so that you can catch all of the parts and catch up with us. Also, there are links where you can find this paper collection. If you live in the USA, you can pick it up at the Sandpaper Road shop as well. So I'm just using some hemp twine and some cord. It's like a copper cord from my craft stash, and I'm really just using I don't want to say it's a scrap, but it's a cut piece from other paper I had used. We've got the base page there in the blue, and I wrapped the cord around it, and what I actually thought was that I was going to just adhere this to the page, kind of just simply, nothing real special, and I thought then I would create like a little slider area where I suppose they call it a belly band, but it's really not because it doesn't go all the way around. I was looking for some pieces of hardware, metal that I had in my craft stash to see if I could just kind of embellish the string a little bit, the twine. And I have these little, I don't really know what they're called, I think they're called like little turns, and you can attach them with a brad. And I have had that that hardware pack forever. And I'm using these tiny little mini glue dots. And the reason is because I really don't want that little, oh, I know what it's called. A photo turn, I think is what it's called. That's what it's called. Well, if you don't put something down like a little glue dot or something, then it moves around, it turns, but which is fine. It's a nice touch, but I don't want it to do that. There's so much going on in this album that I just want it to be still. And I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with the rest of the string, but I had too much of it and didn't really want to make a final decision just yet, so I just trimmed off a little bit. And then I'm playing around with some ideas with some scraps. That's actually the thick cardstock that I used to create the base of the album in the first place. Now, a complete supply list for this project is available for you to check out, and that's too big for me to put in the description box with links to everything plus links to all the other videos. So I put everything over on my blog. There's one blog post that goes with this entire project with links and lists for all the supplies, links to everywhere. So actually, while the tutorial is a 6-part video, the blog post is sort of a one-stop shop. So take your pick. Definitely subscribe to the channel and follow the blog, and then you'll never miss a thing. So here's what I'm doing. I've found some scraps, and I'm just adding a little stripe of pattern paper over top of these brown strips, just to give it a little bit of interest. One thing I try to do when I'm doing a large project like this is I try to do as much separately and flat as I possibly can. It's just my style. I know some people like to assemble like the whole album where they have this blank album and then they work right in the album. I don't actually like to do that very often. Even something like this, I create the pieces just as flat as possible, and then when I can't do anything else with it, then I assemble the flat pieces together. Now that's just a little bit of wet glue, and I put one of my stamping acrylic blocks over top just to hold it in place. And it really doesn't take very long for it to set, like to hold in place. I have a few blocks, so I can get away with putting one on top and then even moving that block to the next one. And it's not dry all the way, but it's set where it won't slide around. And I'm just using a little bit of score tape on the top and bottom there. With a little bit of liquid glue also to add some strength. And I just stick it down. I thought I'd like this album to have a mixture of really complex and interactive pages along with a mix of just simple pages. So this is going to be a simple one where you can tuck. I wanted it big enough where you could actually tuck a few extra 4x6 pictures if you wanted just behind there. You know how sometimes you just have extra pictures that go with the day or go with the event, but you don't necessarily want to like make a scrapbook layout out of them. So yeah. And now onto the back of the page. This car, I just like that so much. And it's one of the cut aparts from the decorative cards page. And then this is another piece of the 8x12 size cardstock, or I'm sorry, pattern paper. I really like this Age of Technology paper collection. I've been saying it all along, but if this is the first video that you're catching in the album series or in this tutorial, it's really, really nice paper. It's nice and thick, and I love all the patterns, and it's real grungy and, you know, masculine, and just I really, really like the feel of the paper. And I'm one of those paper addicts that when my packages come and I get new paper, like I love the smell of new paper in the pack. My sons definitely don't understand that, but I really like it. So here I just folded the piece of paper in half to find the center, and then I used my circle punch to punch a little notch in the paper, and that's gonna indicate to the person looking at the album that there's more in store, like that there's more going on. Sometimes when you don't do something interesting, people who aren't accustomed to looking at mini albums or scrapbook layouts, they just kind of overlook things. But at least if they say, why did you punch that there? Or why is there a hole there? And you could say, because there's a pocket. It helps them understand. So this is just some basic distress ink in black soot. And I thought I'd ink the edges just to make it stand out just a little bit. And then I'm going to use some more liquid glue. Just some scraps of cardboard there to smooth it out. Now, since I glued over top of that, what I have to do is punch again, but I had a little guide to follow from the first time I punched. And that looks really good. See how it is? It looks like it was like made that way, but yet it's sized perfectly to fit on my page. See, if I just would have done just with the decorative card and not with gluing that card to the extra piece, it would have been just a tad too small. So now I can use some score tape and adhere it down, just 3 sides, remembering to leave that notched part open, and that's how we create the pocket. And pockets are great for just putting, you know, I I think scrapbookers sometimes feel like they have to fill every inch of every page. But when you really have nice pattern paper, you don't have to do quite that much. The paper can do some of it. So if you have extra pieces, when you're done with your project, or some cut aparts that are really pretty and perfectly sized, a pocket is a perfect place to just slide them in and create a little bit of interest. Again, leaving a little bit of room for photos if they want for photos. It's really nice. Lots and lots of room for variety. I really like it a lot. Now, this is how I store. I'm showing you a few things here all at once. I have these little plastic trays. They're just basic plastic trays, but that way I can keep a project all together. The string, the brads, the metal pieces, the cut aparts, the scraps, the actual paper, the pages that are done, the pages that are not done. I could just throw it all in there and put it back in the shelf where it goes and work on something else. Because you know how if you're working on something, sometimes you get sick of the paper, just sick of the same collection. You're looking at the same thing. So I actually have about 3 projects going on at once, and that way I'm always interested in what I'm working on that day. Now this I was thinking of continuing along with the idea of what I did on the first page. And on the first page in the previous video, I made a huge tag that's almost as big as the page itself, but it pulls out from the page. It's really cool. And if you haven't seen it, definitely go back and check it out. And so it pulls out from the middle of the page. And I thought, well, I'll make a smaller version of that to go inside this pocket, and I'll make it really, really interesting. And that will kind of go along with that same idea. So this is just craft cardstock. It's like a 65-pound weight, and it's what I've been using throughout the tutorial to make flaps and folds and interesting things. And I am gluing some of these decorative cards right to it. I actually struggled a little bit choosing whether or not I was going to use that craft or whether I was going to use black. I think both would actually look really good. There's what I was saying before about the acrylic blocks also. I just stick a couple on there and then I straighten up my area a little bit, or like here I'm going to distress the edges of this cut apart with my scissors. I'm going to distress them. If you're doing this method, do be careful, because I have like totally sliced my finger before and it feels horrible. Not just the slicing part, but like doing the dishes later that day and trying to, tie a shoe later in the day. It's just horrible. It's bad. So just be careful. Now this is just some ribbon from my stash, and I have to say that I struggled with this idea. Here I've got this paper collection. It's got a lot of metal and grunge, and I'm not saying I struggled physically with the ribbon. I struggled with the idea of a ribbon. I just wasn't sure how I was going to feel about the way that it looked. I thought maybe that I have the same kind of a tray where I keep my brads and eyelets and things like that. Those are clearly my eyelets in a tray. It's just small, like a small tray. I remember when I only had like one of those circle packs of eyelets though, and that was plenty for me. I probably still have the same original pack because they last a really long time. But I thought I was going to maybe put an eyelet in the hole that was already there in the tag, and then I was kind of looking around at brads. And metal pieces. just stuff for my stash. So whenever you're working on a project, sometimes there's a kit involved, which is really nice, and you get everything you could possibly need. I think that's really good, especially if you're just starting out. But if you have been crafting for a while, my guess is that you probably have enough like trinkets and embellishments and things like that to just go back through your stash as if it was a store and just start seeing what you have that would coordinate with the papers that you're using and so on. Now, the little plastic tray that I have is actually, you're never going to believe this, but I use, whenever we get new razors, like new personal razors, my husband and I do make him save the packaging. And that's just like the front of the packaging when you buy razors. It's just perfect. It's the perfect little tray for holding, like little metal pieces, quotes, cut aparts, other little embellishments. And sometimes when I'm doing mixed media, I'll use it as a paint tray, which is nice because then I don't have to wash it. I can just throw it out. Recycle is what I mean. I am an avid recycler, I just want to say. I probably could have gotten away with cutting this part out of the video, honestly. I mean, not too sure if you get anything out of watching me like make a decision and then retract that decision. I don't know. But I guess it's a true process video. I did speed it up to, help with the time factor. In my previous video, I was asking the viewers, all of you watching, how you felt about one long tutorial or several smaller tutorial parts that are shorter. I myself watch a lot of YouTube videos because I find it entertaining and inspiring. Now I'm going to interrupt myself here and see what I'm doing with the ink pad, holding it on a diagonal and then cutting it, and you'll make perfect corners. I think in my other video, I folded it in half to find the center and just snipped off the corners. Either way is fine. This I couldn't really fold because I had already glued it down and the glue wasn't fully dry, and I just thought it was going to be bad for the glue and the paper there, so that's why I used the ink pad as a guide. Using my crocodile to punch a little hole, and still trying to deal with that. What do I have? A ribbon? Oh no, I have those more photo turns, metal photo turns. So as I was saying, I'm trying to decide whether or not my audience enjoys more of several shorter tutorials in parts. This is for one project, and then I would put all those in a playlist as I did for this project. Or is it, do you like it better when it's all of one? Or do you like a little mix it up? And I was saying on YouTube, when I watch other people's videos, I actually like some of all of it. Sometimes I really like to watch hour-long tutorials, or 4-hour-long tutorials when I'm sitting and crafting. And sometimes I like shorter ones. So let me know in the comments below what you like. I'm still struggling with that ribbon. I'm just not sure. Do you see? Every time I do it, I just don't know. Sometimes I just leave it off and let it sit for a while, because after a day or two of having it sit, usually when I come back to my area and I look at the project again with fresh eyes, I could very, very clearly see, oh, it needs a ribbon, or oh, it needs a brad, or oh, it needs this or that. That tag looks really good. I really like it. And all those little pull-outs, those little, trinkets that fit in there, that's really nice. Now this, I'm kind of eyeballing, but just making marks of where I'm going to cut this. I want a certain part of this pattern paper to be on the back of the tag. Normally, I don't care that much about which part shows up, but this time I do. I really like that car with the light bulbs. That is sharp, and it leaves enough room for a picture. Like if someone wanted to put a small picture back there. It's really, really neat. Also, I'm trying to stay consistent on each page where, like, okay, on this page, I used a lot of black ink around the edges. So I kind of stick with that black ink around the edges for everything you could see on this page, And what I'm essentially trying to do is, I'm trying to put a piece of pattern paper on the back, but I was also trying to cover up the brad where the back of it, where it's spread open. There I'm putting another little mini glue dot just right on the photo turn so that it will stay put. Not too sure that would work with wet glue. I highly doubt it. That is just a piece of score tape over top. And now I'm going to use score tape around the outside edges of this piece, just like I was scrapbooking. Now I'm covering up some parts of this tag and using some white acrylic paint, splash a little bit of water on it, and I'm just tapping onto, like I put the paintbrush with the paint on it in my non-writing hand, and then I tap my scoring tool on top of the brush and it creates nice spatter. Now I'm faking my spatter, so like just dotting it in places where I really wanted to try to aim it and didn't do a good job. So there you can see it again. I hold it in my non-writing hand and tried it the other way as well, because it seemed like all my spatter was going in one direction, and so I just switched hands. You could try that and see what works for you too. Definitely some baby wipes, because I got paint spatter everywhere. I mean, it was on my paper trimmer. Look at it. It got everywhere. Normally I don't. I'm going to blame the fact that I put it in my other hand. That's my story. I'm going to stick to that. That tag looks really nice. I like it. I like it a lot. So that I'm reaching my hand into where it will fit into the hinge album. And then once I looked back at that, I thought, you know what? I'm going to leave that string just loose, but I am going to trim it down some. So there's the tag that fits in the pocket with a few cut aparts. I just didn't like the way that spatter looked right there. It looked fake. So I cleaned it up just a little bit. It wasn't doing the mini glue dots weren't doing what I wanted. It worked better on that different kind of photo turn, but on this one I needed some dimension. So I had some glue dots that were like the dimensional glue dots, and I just cut one of the glue dots in half so that it could fit right under the photo turn. There's more of that string. And again, see, if I knew if I waited, then I would be able to see what I was trying to do. And I just did a simple tie. I didn't even do anything special. I just tied it in a knot. But like I said before, I'm trying to keep like some continuity between the things I do on one page. And I had string on the other side, so I put string on that side too. Looks good. So thanks so much for watching this video. I'm going to show you how this page will fit into the album. There was page 1 that we did in the previous video. And now here's page 2 of the album. Definitely stay tuned and watch the next part. Again, you can use your own paper or check out the links below where you can pick this up in the Sandpaper Road shop. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.